I want to talk to you about retrospectives. I've seen many teams use retrospectives, and some of them do it really well, and some of them seem to be struggling trying to get the best out of it. And so I want to talk a little bit about how you can make the best out of your retrospective, how you can make sure that it's not dull and that it's not repetitive. So I want to talk a little bit about what a retrospective is, what's the idea behind it, what it's not, what you should get out of a retrospective, and what a good facilitator should bring to the retrospective. So the first thing to know about a retrospective is that it comes from the idea that the team should be self-managing. The team are the best place to figure out how they're going to work. They're the best place to work what hours they work. They're the best place to figure out whether or not they're going to pair on particular things and all of these various details. And that's because the team, and only the team, really understands the details about what they're working on. No one who's not actively working on the particular problems that the team is particularly working on can understand the subtleties and the nuances, and so has lower quality information than the team does about what they should be fixing. Also, the team most understand themselves. They most understand the dynamics between the different members of the team, when they're going to work best, whether or not there's a conflict between two people and whether or not they should affect that. And finally, it's really important that the team feels some ownership of the process, because it just makes it more enjoyable for them, and that's something we should all be caring about, is whether or not we enjoy our work. It's also important to understand what a retrospective is not. And a retrospective is not something that you apply at the end of a project. That's because it's part of the mechanism by which the team self-organises, and if you apply it at the end of the project, it's too late to self-organise. It's also not an option for the team to come together and figure out all of the things outside the realm of the team that are causing them problems. Those are serious problems. If there's anything outside of the team that's not working right, that's a constraint. They probably really do need to be solved. Maybe I'll do another video about that. But right now in the retrospective, whoever's necessary to solve that problem is not in the room. So it's not a great time to try and solve that problem. Instead, the team needs to accept those are the constraints right now and work how they're going to deal and optimize around those constraints. And also, a retrospective is not useful when there's a manager controlling how the team works. Again, the retrospective is the mechanism by which the team self-organises and self-manages, and if somebody else is managing the team, then you're only going to get a limited amount of benefit from a mechanism for self-managing. So what happens in a good retrospective? I tend to think that three things happen in a good retrospective. The first thing is that the team gets to form a good working bond. Each person in the team gets to express what they feel is working well, what's frustrating them, and every other member of the team gets to understand and empathise with those feelings. That enables the team to trust each other, which enables high quality work to be done. They also work together to identify what problems are happening within the team, whether or not this is a piece of work that's struggling to get done, whether or not there's a recurrent issue between two of the team members. They sit together, they talk about it, and they figure out how they can change their behaviour. And the final thing that happens in the retrospective is that change in behaviour. At the end of the retrospective, the team should have a good idea of what they're going to try differently in the next sprint, in the next iteration. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. The idea is that by experimentation, you can continually optimise the process. Retrospectives tend to have a facilitator, and there's a very good reason for this. This is because the facilitator has several roles that the team will find it hard to fulfill. The first and most important is holding the space. They need to make sure that the room, the space, the environment is a safe space where if someone is feeling a problem, they feel comfortable enough to open up about it, to talk about it, and to explain what the problem is. If you don't have that, then the problems won't get aired and they can't be solved. The second thing that the facilitator brings is creativity. In order for the team to identify and solve the problems, they have to know what the problems are. At the beginning of the project, these tend to be fairly obvious problems, but after 3 or 4 or 10 or 20 retrospectives, they've figured out and solved all of the really obvious problems, or at least the ones with easy solutions. In order to start finding and solving the more complicated problems, they need to bring in an element of creativity, and that's what the facilitator brings in. They should have at their disposal a whole range of different exercises that they can get the team to do that are designed to encourage creativity, different thinking, and come up with problems and solutions that the team might not otherwise experience or understand. And the final thing that the facilitator brings in is knowledge. Often the facilitator has seen many other projects, many other teams, and they might not know what is going to work for this team, but they have a whole library of things they've seen work on other teams, and they can present these ideas to the team they're working with and say, I've seen another team try this. Why don't you try it? You might find that this helps you. So that's a quick summary of how I think of a retrospective and what you're hoping to get out of it. The key points to remember are that it's a mechanism for the team to self-organise. Nobody except the team should be organising or managing the team, and the retrospective is the mechanism by which that happens.